Welcome. I see people coming in and joining us this morning for the Art and Me session. Um, this is a great time to kind of get settled, spend some time getting your supplies together. Also, if you need to do a bathroom break, now is a good time before we get started. For those of you who are all ready, I just wanted to point out that and introduce my friend Kelly, who is giving American Sign Language today. She will be spotlighted through the entire presentation, so you should be able to see her throughout. But if there's ever any issues with visibility or questions that you have, you can definitely contact us in the chat and we'll make sure to address that for you. If you have other questions and things, we'll also be using the chat for call and response so that we can hear from you when we ask questions, and we'll be calling out those answers and things like that. We'll also be using the chat to communicate instructions. So you'll see our supplies are already in there. So as we wait to get started, just take a moment to look at the artworks before you, and we're going to actually practice using the chat. So if you could answer one of the questions about what do you see and any questions that you have about the artworks in the chat, that would be great. Additionally, your video and audio is turned off, so the chat and the Q&A are the best ways to communicate with us throughout the program. I see some more people are coming in. Welcome. It's good to see everybody. Make sure that you have the supplies that are in the chat. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us through the chat, or if you're having any issues throughout the program. I do see that some people are interested in the orange pumpkin. And they were kind of curious what it was made out of. I think I'll turn that over to my friend Leah, since it's from her museum.
Hi, everybody. My name is Leah from the Smithsonian American Art Museum. I'm so happy you asked about this basket that looks like a pumpkin. It's by the artist named Donna Look, and she's from Wisconsin. So she goes out in the woods and looks for birch trees that are going to be cut down. And she takes the bark off of those birch trees. And the darker colored areas that you see, like that would be the skin of the pumpkin, that's the inner bark. So not the outer layer, but the inner bark of a birch tree. And the lighter colors are from that outer bark. So then she sews pieces of bark together to make this container that looks like a pumpkin. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks so much, Leah. That's really great. And so I think we have everyone here. So thank you again for joining. And let's go to our next slide. Thank you for joining our program today at the Smithsonian. We actually have two different museums contributing today. We have the National Museum of Asian Art, as well as the Smithsonian American Art Museum. This program is about preservation and art conservation, which we're going to talk about a little bit later for those of you who might be here for the first time, because we have some conservators here as well as educators. So next slide. So my name is Matthew Lesnowski, and I work at the National Museum of Asian Art, and I work in education and outreach for programs. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Ellen, who's going to introduce herself.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ellen, and I also work at the National Museum of Asian Art. I am an objects conservator, and we'll talk about what that means a little bit more in a few minutes. But I'm also going to introduce you to another conservator who's on the webinar today, Leah, who is from a different museum.
Hey, everybody. Like I said, my name is Leah Bright, and I have the same job as Ellen. So I'm an objects conservator. But instead of at the National Museum of Asian Art, I'm at the Smithsonian American Art Museum, just like my colleague, Laura.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. If you're on this side, the Eastern time zone, my name is Laura Hoffman. I also am at the Smithsonian American Art Museum as a volunteer. I used to work there full time, but I just love this program so much that I stay here on as a volunteer. All right.
So next slide, and then I'm going to turn it over to Ellen, and she's going to talk a little bit more about her role as a conservator.
Okay, hi everyone. So I don't know if some of you have done the program before, or if you've maybe heard of a conservator before, but I'm wondering if you could type in the chat if anyone has an idea of what you think it might be. That would be great. I'd love to hear some of your ideas. And while you're doing that, also take a look at this picture and see what you see. Are there any things that you notice that might be sort of a little unusual or different that might have something to do with being conservator? Put those in the chat as well. And just take a second to look and think about it, and then we can talk about it.
All right, Ellen, we had one person write in that it looks like it's some sort of science lab, like they're kind of seeing all the equipment.
Mm-hmm. So conservation, what we do is we are basically like art doctors, right? So what we want to do is we try to take care of the art. And so we use a lot of science to understand how the art is made. And we also use science to understand how to keep it safe and take care of it. And so just like when you go to the doctor, right, sometimes you go because you're not feeling well, and sometimes you go because you want to stay healthy. And so we're the same with objects. So the thing that you see sort of in the upper left, that is a microscope, because we examine things really closely to try and see what's going on and understand the artwork we're working with. And I don't know if you can notice, is there anything particular that conservator is wearing that you notice that you think might be a little different than what you would wear normally? Does anybody see anything special that she has?
It looks like someone wrote gloves.
Yeah, so that is right, because purple gloves, right? They don't have to be purple. They come in lots of different colors. But the reason we wear gloves is because there are different oils and things on your hands, which you don't want to touch the artwork with, because it can make it cause damage. And so even if you wash your hands really well, there's still stuff on your hands naturally that you want to keep off of the artwork. So we wear gloves. And the other thing we wear that you don't see her wearing, but you can see me, I'm wearing a lab coat, which is kind of like what you see when you go to the doctor's office. Sometimes they wear coats like that. So does anyone have an idea? Why do you think I might wear something like this? Think about like the artwork and when you're working on it, some different ways that this might be helpful for my job.
Someone wrote, "Don't get dirty."
Right. So it's to help protect me. And I don't know if you can see my sleeves very well. Here, this is a better one. I kind of get dirty sometimes when I'm working, right? So this is a way to protect me, but it's also a way to protect the artwork. So if I'm wearing a fuzzy sweater, I don't want to get little fuzzy bits onto the artwork. So it helps with that. And then just, this is one more thing I'll show you quickly. And this is called an optivisor. And this is magnifying just like that equipment you see in the slide, but this is a little bit easier because I can move around with it. So that's another thing I wear. And if there's time later, we'll talk about more tools. But right now, unless you guys have any more questions, we're going to move on to the next section.
All right, so if you haven't already, please get out your art supplies. We are going to get started on the art activity. One of the things we should mention is there's a very fun holiday coming up. You might know it, you can put it in the chat. Of course, we're talking about Halloween. So our theme for this Art and Me is trick or treat. And we're really going to be thinking about making some fun shadow decorations. So please get out. You're going to need a piece of construction paper. We recommend a dark one. You're going to take out an index card. You're going to take out a pencil, some scissors, and some glue or some tape. All right, so I'm going to briefly just show these instructions on here, but then we're going to take it off and we're going to do it together. So this is called Make Your Own Shadow Decoration. Just take a look really quickly, and now I'm going to stop sharing for a second. All right, so now you should be able to see me and Kelly, and you can see us a little better. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start drawing a shape We have some suggestions again to make it Halloween themed, but it could be any type that you want. So some suggestions might be a bat, a cat, a ghost, witch's hat, pumpkin. So anything that you desire. So we're going to take it and we're going to start drawing it on our index card. Now, if you want to make it bigger, you can take multiple index cards and tape them together and draw it on. But I'm going to start here. I'm going to draw a witch's broom. So you're just going to outline it here. So you can see here, I have a rough outline of my broom. And then what we're next going to do is we're going to cut the outline here. That's the very important thing. You want to get the exact outline that you want. So then once you do, is you're going to cut it out. I have my cutout version here. And then what we're going to do is we want to attach it to our piece of construction paper. So I like to use tape, but we've also tried a few methods and glue stick works well too. I have some very fun festive Halloween tape. I don't know if you can see, it's got these fun black cats on them. And when I was in school around your age, my art teacher taught me a very cool trick called making magic circles with our tape. So you just take a piece like this and you just fold it around so it becomes its own circle. See, like this. And what's great about this is we want to affix it onto the back here. It makes it where it's going to be easy to pull off because we're going to be taking this off in about 2 weeks. So let me show you what I mean. So you're going to put it on your dark piece of construction paper. Now I have here a whole bunch. I decided to make a whole witch's piece of paper here. So I've got a hat, I've got a broom, I've got a cauldron or a pot here. And what I did is I taped it on and I wanted to make sure to get tape all around it so that it's really on here. Because what we're going to do in order to make it a shadow decoration is we're going to then tape it against a very sunny window. And you want this side facing out, so facing away. So you will only see this side when you're inside the room. And then you're just going to leave it for about a week and a half or 2 weeks. Again, we timed this program so that it would be about 2 weeks before Halloween, because what you're going to do is I've already done this one. When you take it off, and this is why you want it to be able to take, you can see here how it has faded. So the darker parts are revealed because the sun has faded the rest of the paper. So we have a bunch of other examples that we made that we'll show you later on. But let's first, as you guys are working with your hands, let's turn back over and see some artwork that inspired us for this activity. So give me a second here. I'm going to switch back.
All right. Hi, everybody. This is Leah again. And these are two artworks that inspired my shadow decoration. And these are two delightful artworks on paper by an artist named Ted Gordon. And although personally I am more of a dog person, I love black cats, especially around Halloween. So these cats really spoke to me. And have a good look at these cats. What colors do you see? There's a couple of different color schemes going on both of these. So if you can see them, throw some colors in the chat. Take a good look. There's a lot going on with these cats. They're a little bit funky.
Ooh, the first color that came into the chat was the green and the eyes, the green eyes.
Excellent. Yes, those on the right side, that cat has some big green eyes. And while you're looking, also throw in the chat, what do you think was used? Oh, and pink, good job, Melissa. Yes. What do you think was used to create these cats? And these might be things that you use at home to color or to make drawings, to make your own artworks. What materials do you think Mr. Gordon used to draw these cats? Well, he used pens, he used markers, he used crayons, and he also used other colors of paper. Yes, good job, markers. So those materials, pens and markers, ink, just like cats, those materials, after you use them, they really like to be in the dark. They fade very quickly in the sunlight. The color goes away. So when artworks like these are in the museum, we only display them in a gallery for a short amount of time to protect those bright colors like the pinks and the greens from going away. And so just like with your shadow art, you will see just how quickly colors from artwork can fade. So drawings like these with pens and markers fade quickly, but so can dyes that are in textiles. And so we can go to the next slide. This is an example of one of my favorite artworks in our collection that's made out of textiles. This is called a sound suit by the artist Nick Cave, who's an artist and also a dancer. And he's famous for these elaborate suits that can actually be worn and serve as kind of a protector. But now that this artwork is in our museum, it's displayed very carefully and not worn so that it doesn't get too much light. But before it was in our museum, it was not displayed quite as carefully. And so you'll see what happened in the next slide. If you can see, I would love for you to throw in the chat those bright yellow arrows. What do you see that they are pointing to? Do you see a difference between the colors where those two arrows are pointing? It's pretty subtle, so it might be a little tough to see, but let me know if you can tell what is happening there.
Someone wrote different green.
Perfect. Yes, bingo, you got it. So the yellow arrow on the left is pointing to a green color that looks maybe more forest green, and that is the original color of that yarn. And the other bright yellow arrow is pointing to a color that looks more blue or gray. And while I like that teal color, it's pretty, it was not the original color of the yarn. So it wasn't exactly what the artist intended. So we try to keep artworks looking as close as possible to what the artist intended. So textiles, unfortunately, fade pretty quickly and easily in the sunlight. And Ellen has another story related to textiles that she will share next.
So, hi, everybody. So what Leah was talking about, light can cause a lot of damage. There's fading and there's also lots of other kinds of damage. And so just like bats and cats and all the things you think about for Halloween really like to stay in the dark, we keep all of our artworks that are sensitive to light in the dark to keep them safe. But sometimes they've had a lot of light on them before they come to us. So these are two chair covers. They're also textile or fabric, like Leah was talking about. And they're part of a set, but you can take a look and see if you see any differences between these two. Even though they're from the same group, they have something different about them. So let me know if anybody sees anything they can notice.
Someone said one of the circles is higher.
That is true. It's just that that's good. They're different sections of the chair cover. They're not exactly the same. So it's not the whole piece of fabric anymore, but maybe if we go to the next slide, Laura, it might be a little bit easier to get a good look. So I don't think you could tell in the other ones, but you could see it as easily, but one of the things on the chair covers are bats, which is kind of why I picked it for this, because of Halloween and bats. But if you look at the two different ones now, these are the two different chair covers you just saw, but a specific detail of them. So take a look at the colors and take a look at the bats and tell me if you see anything different about them.
Someone said the bottom one looks blurry.
It is a little bit blurry, but it's also part of that isn't so much blurry as that the design isn't there as much anymore. You can't see it as easily. And that's because of light damage. So two things have happened here. Part of it is that the thread that was used to embroider or sew the design, some of it has gone because it fell apart from too much light. It made it really fragile. And also, if you look at the background color and the colors, especially to the side, you can see they're not as strong anymore. And that's because, just like Leah was talking about fading, the colors have faded as well. And so if you go to the next slide, now that they're in our collection, we do everything we can to make sure that they stay well preserved and careful. And so we have all kinds of different storage that we use to try and keep things in the dark. So these bats get to stay in the dark, just like bats like. So this is a drawer where these covers live. And so when I'm not taking a picture of it, that drawer is closed and the cabinet doors are closed and it's in the dark. And the only time it's in the light is if we are showing it on exhibit or if someone like me is looking at it. And so you can see we have lots of different ways. If we go to the next slide, we have lots of different ways that we keep different artwork in the dark to keep it safe. And not every artwork needs to be in the dark, but especially for the ones where they are sensitive or don't like light, then we have special ways that we try and keep them in the dark. So we have either folders, like you can see on the left, we have special boxes to keep things in the dark, just to protect them, because we're trying to keep them as safe and as in good condition as we can for as long as we can. So same idea like we were talking about earlier, just like you go to the doctor and there are things that you do to keep yourself healthy and to keep yourself safe. We do the same thing with our artworks, because we don't want to have to go and take care and have to treat them because something has been wrong. We want to keep them as healthy as we can. And so, go ahead.
Here, as we had mentioned before, we have some examples. So you can see here my before that I had just showed you, and then after about a week and a half in a sunny window, what the result was, our shadow decoration. This is Ellen's example. She did a bat. What I love about this one, what you can see is instead of cutting out, she cut out the inside here. So she wanted the bat to be the lighter component and the surroundings to be darker. And then she did the flip side here. So you have lots of different ways. You can make as many of these as you want. Let's see a couple more examples. Here we have Leah's example. She did ghosts. So again, you can see it doesn't have to, and we like to do it on a darker sheet, but it doesn't have to be necessarily a dark blue or a black. Here she's using a red background and it worked out really well. And she also did a cat here, and you can see here with the moon. So you can really make it a full scene if you'd like. And then here, Matthew made a pumpkin. So again, you can see here on the orange, that was the lightest one. So you maybe see the least amount of difference, but you can still make out the face which he had used for the cutout. So it works with almost any color here. Leah, do you want to talk about the report?
Sure. So just like if you go to the doctor, you might notice that your doctor writes things down about your health and about what's going on with your body. We do that for artworks as art conservators to make sure we know what is happening. And if something changes over time, we know what happened and why it happened. So we use something like this that we call the Art Doctor Conservation Report. And if you want, when your artworks are finished, you can do one too. So you can monitor what happens to your shadow art. And I'll just go through this really quickly using Matthew's really cool pumpkin. So the art doctor or conservator's name is the first thing on this report. And so I would just say my name, Leah, and the art's name. Can you guys think of any title that you would like to give Matthew's super cool artwork? Do you have any titles in mind that you think would be good? It has a cool face and a green stem. I would probably call it jack-o'-lantern or maybe funny pumpkin, something like that. So you can give your artwork a name if you would like. And then next it says examination. And for that, the examination says, what 3 words best describe your artwork? Maybe orange. That could be face. And I know from being there when Matthew made this that it's pretty small. So he made a small pumpkin. So I would probably use the size, describe the size of the pumpkin. And then which emoji best describes how you felt making this artwork. And so this is Matthew's pumpkin, but I'm pretty sure that he was very happy when he was making this because we were all together. And so I would say that far right emoji with the happy face. And then next is what can you do to take care of your artwork? And so you could use some of the things that Ellen talked about today to protect it from the light, because now that you have this finished shadow artwork, you don't want those other parts to fade. You wouldn't want the eyes, the nose, and the mouth of this pumpkin to also fade. So you would want to protect it. So you could display it during Halloween, but maybe not all of the time of the rest of the year. You could also make some kind of folder or put it in a box so it doesn't get all crumpled up if you're storing it. What else? You could put down handling it carefully, so not crinkling it up and not putting it in a pile with lots of other books and things. Yeah, and then you could draw a little picture of your artwork if you would like. We frequently take photos of all the artwork on our collection to make sure that it stays nice and safe. So let me know if you have any questions about this Art Doctor report, and we would love to see them if you write reports.
Thanks, Leah. All right, so I'm going to put this in here in the chat to share your shadow decoration with us now by emailing a photo of it, of your creation, to dwrclunder@si.edu. We're collecting them. It's totally optional, but we will share, which is always fun at the final part of this program. We also want you to think about and take a look around your home and in your community. See if you can spot anything that might fade in the spotlight. Now we've seen a bunch of different examples from both museums, textiles, paper, even a sound suit. So take a look and see which ones might fade in the sunlight, and think how you personally might be able to take care of this item and protect it from the light. We will be putting everything into the learning lab, and we will be sharing these out at the end. So you will be able to get this in the recording. For the show and tell, we are going to end the recording, so none of that will be in that. So I'm just going to end the recording now. So for the recorded part, thank you so much for joining us. But everyone else who wants to stay for the show and tell, please stay on here.